G'day guys, how's it going? Today I'm just going to be quickly showing you how to add a new blog post to the White Peak Digital website or any other WordPress website. First of all, you have to start with a blog post, of course. This could be in any format. This is on a website called surferseo.com, but it just depends on how our copywriters have provided the blog. It could be in a Word document or any sort. So first of all, what we want to do is quickly proof it and run our eyes over it to make sure it all looks good. This doesn't mean reading it fully, of course, but it actually just means pasting it somewhere that can automatically check for grammar mistakes and such. What I use is just Word doc, and that does the really basic stuff. So what I'll do first is select everything with Control A or just by clicking and dragging and copying the entire blog post. Then I'll go over to Word doc and I'll just paste it in. And then once that is done, I can have a quick look through the entire document here just to see if anything jumps out with little squiggle underlines and whatnot. This will typically be what I put on a second monitor because what I want to do, thanks to Surfer SEO, I want to actually copy it from that website to paste into WordPress because it keeps all the H1 and header formatting. If I copy it out of WordPress, it actually loses all that formatting, and then I have to do it all again once I've added it to WordPress. So I just look for the mistakes here. Like here is one, excellent security misspelt measures. So what I'll then do is once I find that, I'll just go back into here and I'll look up that mistake and see if I can find it. I forgot, there it is. And I'll just correct it inside Surfer SEO, which is where most of our blog posts can be found, are in these links. Then I'll just go back here and keep looking to see if anything else. All these other squiggles are just brand names, so I don't worry about those. I keep going down just to see, oh, here's another one. These little things sometimes just slip through the cracks, so it's always good to have a look through and find these because it doesn't look very professional if it goes on the live website. All the rest of these look good, and there we go. There was one more up the top with a blue squiggle. These are more like optional ones, which you may or may not want to fix. This one just says so when you're deciding which provider to go for. It looks fine to me, and I'm not going to bother changing that. So now that I know that this all looks good, I'm just going to select it all again and copy. Just with Control A and Control C on Windows. And then I'm going to go over to the WordPress website after logging in, and I'm going to go to Posts, Add a New Post. Once that's loaded, I just paste all the text in here, and then I scroll to the top and I just move this heading into the actual title section. Now I'll go to the bottom, and depending on who's posting this, if it's been ghost written or written by a copywriter to then be posted under someone else's name, you might need to add like a little signature to the end. For myself, for example, if it's a blog post that I'm writing or it looks like I've written, I just put "To Your Success Jackson" at the end. And you can find this by just looking at the live website and looking at another post that person has done. Typically, they'll all be done by me. A lot of them are, about 90% of them. So just to find out what signature they put at the end of a blog post, you can just scroll down to the bottom of any of them to see what it is. Once that's done, we then scroll to the top, and there's only a few more things we have to do before we can post this one, and that's mainly around adding images and making sure the meta details are correct. I'll click on the cog up in the top right-hand corner here and navigate over to Post. I'll then make sure to select the publish date. Now, these little dots here tell me that another blog has already been scheduled to go live on that date. And at the moment, this may change, but our current schedule is Monday and Fridays at 9 a.m. So the next available spot is on the 19th. And I'll just change the time here to 9 a.m. And now that's all locked in to go live on the 19th of November at 9 a.m. in 2021, of course. Then you'll select the author for pretty much all the articles that are written by another copywriter that isn't listed here. We'll just post them under my name with that signature I just showed you at the bottom. For the rest of this, we will leave it blank, and then we select blog post. And then depending what the blog is about, we'll then add a tag, which is for the platform that we're talking about. This one is Magento. Sometimes when you type it in, it will also appear. This is probably one of the first Magento blogs we've done, so I have to create that tag by just pressing enter. Then what we need is an excerpt and a featured image. For the excerpt, I just take the first sentence from the blog that was written, and I make sure to remove this block here by just using the backspace button, and then I just paste that first sentence in here to use as the excerpt for the blog post, which shows up in other places when shared on social media, etc. Then we check the permalink. This is what the link for the actual blog will look like in the URL bar. So this one will be Best Magento Hosting, but what we need to make sure to do is put blog / in front of it to keep the right URL structure. So what we do is we just go in here and quickly adjust this to all look like a URL. And that will mean once this blog is live on the 19th of November, the URL will be whitepeakdigital.com/best-magento-hosting, which is perfect. Then for the title, we sometimes like to make small changes to the title that was done by the copywriters. Usually this being will add in the year. If we're talking about a comparison or the best of something, it's good to mention when this article was kind of written to increase click-through rate, because it makes it seem more relevant and more up to date. So for this one, I'll say in 2021. Then all we have left is the image and a few other things in the SEO section. So I'll click on this colored button up here with the score out of 100 in it. First of all, I'll add in the focus keyword, which is just the main section of the title. So I'll just put in Best Magento Hosting. And you can add in additional ones, which are usually just variations of that if you'd like. Then the snippet, again, is just a version of the excerpt. So again, I have the excerpt copied here, but you may need to go back and copy it from that cog setting down again. But all you have to do is sometimes make changes to this to fit it within 160 characters. So this one, it just takes a little bit of fiddling with, but you just have to give it a read and see where you can take snippets out. So Magento is a fantastic CMS. So let's users build an online store for their business. Yep. So for this one, I might go something like Magento has tons of features, intuitive tools, and an open source design. It's never been easier to get your products onto the internet. So it's a variation of it, but this at least is within 160 characters, which means when it appears on search engines, it is fully visible and it doesn't have those dots and the sentence doesn't end on it. The other thing you want to check is to make sure the title is within 60 characters. Usually they are, but sometimes with extra long blog titles, the White Peak Digital section of the blog will exceed 60 characters. So if that's the case, you can just delete the %set and %site name, which will just have the page name be the blog post with nothing else at the end of it. But for this one, we'll leave that there to fill out the character count. So now that that's done, we've done everything we needed to do over here. The final thing, as I said, is just the image is on the blog, one being the featured image, and then we also want to add a few images throughout the blog post. The featured image is probably the most tricky one or time-consuming one because it requires, typically we want to create something a bit more unique instead of just slapping some stock images up like we do throughout the blogs. So these are the featured images for each blog post here, and you can see they have been made by us to be a bit more eye-catching and such. So depending on what we're doing, dictates what this looks like, but it's usually a stock image with a dark color on the covering it, with then some words or a logo on top to make it legible, unless it's a comparison which has this other format. But again, there are older blog posts that used to just be stock photos. So if you don't have the capacity or the means to create something like this, don't worry about not using a stock photo. You're more than welcome to. Just find something that's relevant and useful and ideally hasn't been used before, or almost certainly you don't want to use an image that has been used before. So find something new, either on a website called Unsplash, which we can take a look at here, unsplash.com, or at another website called pexels.com. These websites offer stock free photography, so that's why we use these ones particularly. You can go up here and search for things like website or web design to have a look and see what you can find to see if there's an image that's going to work well for us. This one, for example, looks good, and you can have a quick look over here to see if it's been used already. But it's a bit of trial and error. It's hard to see if some have been used, so just take your best guess, and if it doesn't jump out at you, then that should be all right to use. But before I started recording this, I had set up a new document with the Magento logo because that's what we're doing this post on. But what I do need to find is a new image. So this one does look good. I might just have a quick look around to see if there's anything else that jumps out at me that might be even better. These websites don't typically have super specific things. Otherwise, I'd search for something like Magento, but it's unlikely to have something like that. But we may as well check. No, it doesn't look like it. These ones here are just ads for other paid stock photography websites. So because of that, I'm just going to search for something like website or web design. And now I'll pick something like this, for example, and I'll just click the download free button. After a few seconds, it should start to download. And once that's done, I'll open that up on my computer, and then I can just drag it into wherever I'm making this image, either in Canva or Photoshop, whatever you're doing to make this. Otherwise, if you don't have the time to make a custom image like this, you just have to make sure that the image has been resized to 1200 pixels by 630 pixels. And then you're more than welcome to just use a stock photo, but it does have to be this size no matter what you end up doing. Because I've put some time into making a new thumbnail for this, that's pretty much all I need to do. I've got the logo on top with that dark background and the logo here. So I'm just going to save this one quickly to my desktop so that I can use this for this new blog we're making. Now that that's been saved, I no longer need these websites, so I can close out of that. And I can just go to featured image here, and I can just drag out and drop this image to upload it to the website. Once that's uploaded, I just make sure that the title and alt text have been set up correctly with spaces instead of hyphens and are relevant to the title of the blog post. And then I'll just hit upload. And now that featured image has been added. So the final thing after that is to just add some images to the blog itself. And these are just stock photos. And typically I'm just going to use stock photos we've already got uploaded to the website to save on storage space so that we don't have to keep uploading more and more stock photos. This is just to break things up. So you don't want to overdo it, but it's just to keep things eye-catching and interesting as we move forward. This one, I don't know why the 1960s there. So that was another issue, another error that we can just catch there. But let's have a look here. I might search up website, see if anything pops up that looks good, that's relevant to what they were just doing. Maybe this one looks good because they were talking about hosting and such. We can scroll a bit further down, find some more space. Don't know why these numbers are here, so I'll get rid of those because they're not a part of the company names. That looks all good though. Now I'll scroll down a bit further. How far away are we? No, add a bit more space. We'll put another image here, for example. So you just want to space them out evenly. Depending on the length of the blog will depend on how many images you add, but it's nice to have a couple, and then maybe 5 paragraphs between each image, 5 to 10. There's no specific rule around it. It's just having a good spacing and something that looks nice. You don't want to crowd them with images because again, they're just stock photos. They don't add anything in particular. But it's mainly about SEO and such, and just making sure we hit those requirements. So that's a nice spacing as we go down. There'll probably only be room for one more, so I'll go down to around here. I'll just add in one more image, and that will be it for the blog. So let's have a quick look here to see what we can add in. Might search up web design just to see if anything quick jumps out that I can use. This one's pretty good. I'll just add that one in there. Then it looks like we've got absolutely everything done. So we can just hit the schedule button once we're confident everything's been done, and we can check that go live date has been set correctly. And then down here, we can just hit view post, and we can see a preview link for this blog post to make sure it all looks good. So if you've done everything correctly, there will be the title up here. There'll be the date for when this blog will go live. There'll be the right author's name here. The featured image you've uploaded is appearing up here. All your headings have been created correctly, should appear here as jump links. Then you've got that excerpt that we added that's bolded and slightly larger, and the rest of the blog post with the images that we've added. Down the bottom, there will be the signature that we added right at the start with "To Your Success Jackson" or whatever it is, depending on the author. And then the rest of this is just a part of the template. You don't have to worry that this image doesn't appear. The image does appear once the post is live. And that's it. Everything else is done correctly. You can close out of that preview now and go back to WordPress posts, and you should be able to see the next post is Best Magento Hosting 2021, scheduled for the 19th of November. And you can see all these other ones scheduled as well, moving backwards with the last post going live just yesterday for Joomla. Awesome. Well, that was a bit of a longer video, guys, but thank you so much for sticking with me for that one. Hopefully you now have a pretty clear understanding as to how to edit and upload a new blog to a WordPress website or White Peak Digital specifically. Things might change depending on who you're uploading for and onto what website, but obviously this will give you about 90% of the picture. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks a lot, guys.